Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Game On. I'm Jeff Taylor alongside Jack Taylor. This podcast, a part of Bay Hackle Sports. Hope you guys are having a great start to your 2025 and a lot to get to. Now, we said in the last episode we were going to kind of put a bow on high school football and put it away, but we've had a couple things come up in the last couple weeks, so let's just kind of roll through those a little bit. And first, let's talk about it right before we got started here. The Keep Pounding Classic. Bank of America Stadium. I think this would be year number three coming up, correct? So for the first 2 years, the Panthers have decided who's going to be playing in those games, and they've had great choices. A little something different, though.
Yeah, so this year, now it's the third year. It's sponsored by, now going to be in a partnership with Belk.
Okay.
Used to do the Belk Bowl for for college football. So now kind of diving into this. So that'll be pretty cool. And so now teams in North and South Carolina can nominate themselves to be a part of the bowl game. So that's pretty huge because it allows for, everybody to kind of stake their claim, and it might show that they are going to go maybe even a bit further than just, some of the top teams.
That's what I'm starting to think.
Last year with Weddington versus Providence Day, Independence up against Myers Park, then you think the year before that when you had Northwestern and Providence Day, just with a single game, but the two of the best teams in the area. So there is going to be a selection committee, but they're going to be, nominating individual schools for or specific week one matchups. So the high schools don't even have to necessarily nominate themselves, but if they were to say, the Battle of the Iredales, if it's North and South Iredale against each other for week one, if schools think, and they can go outside of just nominating themselves, they don't have to. They can nominate other schools inside of it. So they're going to say they're going to notify by about mid-February as to whether or not they've been added in or not. So they're going to have the athletic director or the head football coach from each respective school has to do so. So that's pretty huge and could allow for some cool matchups for that first week.
Plus, I think, too, it kind of, opens the door, and I don't want to say for the have-nots, but I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It gives a really cool chance for some teams who would probably never get a chance to get a chance to play. And I'm wondering if the Panthers or the people making the decisions will look at that a little bit also.
Yeah.
You could have the Butler Indy or the AK Providence or, Weddington and Marvin Ridge or whatever, but I wonder if they would open, their minds to, okay, here's some week one matchups, but it's, Garinger and Barry.
Yeah.
I'll be curious to see if that, how much that comes into play.
And so this year it's going to be a doubleheader once again, they're saying, according to the Panthers. We just got this press release, a little bit earlier today. And instead of being, the first year it was on a Saturday.
Right.
This past year, I believe it was on
Friday night.
It was a Friday night. So it's going to be
was it the
on
same
a Thursday?
night as
I can't remember. It might have been on a Thursday.
It wasn't the same night as the one at Memorial Stadium, though.
No, I believe the Kickoff Classic, that
was on Friday, I think.
Either way, I remember they were different days, but this year it's going to be on Friday.
Okay.
So it's going to be another doubleheader Friday on the August 22nd. I
guess that'd be week one.
At 4 and at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So, it's going to be pretty big.
Oh, that 4 o'clock.
It's going to be a pretty big event. So if you're, AD or head coach listening, and you think that you know of a matchup or you think you should be involved in it, definitely send through that application process.
And when they say South Carolina, do they mean literally anywhere?
I'm gonna assume that it's got to be
Dutch Fork, or
that would be really. We were hoping for an Irmo Dutch Fork, that would be.
How about a Dutch Fork Indy?
Now with the specific nomination, with the specific matchups, it sounds like it's gonna have to be ones that are already going to be scheduled.
Got it. Right.
You couldn't just fabricate anything.
You can't make one up.
Or you have to then, or you can change your matchup to say after now that we can nominate it, hey, let's change this week one matchup. But that's up to that's up to the schools themselves.
Right.
Outside of that, we also had some coaching turnaround as we were expecting to see, this year. So there was a good amount. Well, we can start with Hickory Ridge, not the season they were hoping for after making the playoffs the year before.
Yeah, a little bit of a struggle for them, and I guess their head coach,
Brandon Gentry. He has been around. He played at Crest High School back, in the day when they were winning. He was on the '96 state finals team. Then, he played at App State in college, so he's been around for forever. He's been at Hopewell for the past 3 years, trying to, take on that conference take on that school in a really tough conference.
That's a juggernaut conference.
And he did a really good job with them. So for after, he coached at West Cabarrus, he was at Northwest Cabarrus. He's got a winning, he's right around a winning record as a head coach. But it's, if anybody, after having a winless year for Hickory Ridge, that's exactly what they're hoping for.
So he's moving into Hickory Ridge because
Hickory Ridge fired their head coach, and then now
that was Coach Wilson, correct?
No, Coach Yes, Coach Wilson. Yes, he
okay.
was fired from head coach. Absolutely correct. But it didn't take him long to get a head coaching gig. He goes right over to Garinger High School.
And I hope for Garinger that this kind of gets some momentum.
It'll be the third head coach in 3 years. Yeah,
and I mean, for, the kids there, and I know it's tough to go into that. I mean, I can remember going out there a couple years ago, and the first day of practice, they had 11 kids.
Yeah.
So he's got a tough task in front of him, but he's been there. He's been at a school that's had success. Like you said, they had a rough year. Hopefully, he can step in there, get some kids out there excited about the program, start building something there, and be able to stay with it. Because 3 coaches in 3 years.
I mean, they've had 15 in the last 25.
Really?
Yeah, they've had 1 winning season in the past 25 years and 14 seasons with no wins whatsoever. Their last win as a football team was in October of 2019. They've lost 49 games straight. And you bring in D'Angelo Lloyd. He was a alumni. Or he's from the area. He was a star high school player.
Yep.
That doesn't pan out, and so it's going to be a long process. But he's a former Tar Heel football player. He was NFL hopeful in Coach Wilson, so should be able to hopefully maybe kind of steady the waters over there. But it's going to be interesting to see. These now coaches are going to be coming in. Garinger could be an 8A or a 7A.
Right, yeah.
Which Hopewell could be a 6A or a 5A when they were already playing in split conferences. Now, and then Hickory Ridge could be, a 7A or an 8A. So we'll see. We're still waiting to see Hopewell. I haven't seen anything about them filling out a head coach for that position now, whether it's going to be from the inside or not. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of coaching changes. Those are the few we've seen so far. We haven't really seen any others that we've been looking around. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how all that progresses.
Now, that was in North Carolina. South Carolina, another big change, though.
Yes.
With Nation Ford.
Yeah, Nation Ford playing in a really tough area in Fort Mill, in Rock Hill right there, but they elect for kind of going along with maybe some of the stuff we've seen in college ball, go with former players, go with, whether it's, Michael Vick or whether it's, Deshaun Jackson.
Right.
So the Nation Ford goes with former Gamecock quarterback Jake Bentley, son of course, prominent South Carolina historic head football coach, and Bentley and Coach Bentley there. So and Coach Bobby Bentley. So that's going to be huge for Nation Ford to get some sort of We sat down and talked to him, and he seems to really have a plan for that program.
He does, and I think the interesting question that you asked him about was like you come in, it's really in a wild spot because he has his dad who, like you said, an historic coach. What has his dad taught him? What is his own thought process about coming in and building a culture? But he also talked about the culture that's already there.
Yeah.
And how do you kind of walk that fine line of getting both in? And what I thought was interesting, I guess he had a saying, "Pull the rope."
Yeah.
And I think what was interesting about pull the rope is, he mentioned who's pulling the rope? It's the coaches, it's the team, it's the athletic director, it's the students, it's the parents, it's the community.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times he mentioned community.
Yeah.
And actually, if you want to check out that interview, go to bayhacklesports.com.
Yeah.
We have the whole interview with Jack and Jake.
Yeah.
Tough to say.
Yeah.
And I guess my question for you is obviously, you saw him play.
Yeah.
I mean, your freshman year. We saw him play for a couple of years.
Yeah.
How cool is it to see somebody like that though get the reins? And what did you take away from your interview with him, other than just maybe that conundrum of, the culture deal?
Yeah, I think that from a perspective, he mentioned something, talking about it in his, he played for his dad at Burns High School. Dad was a prominent head coach there, for a long time there, historic head coach. And then, transferred to Alabama when his dad got the job with Auburn.
Right.
And then, South Carolina, he's been around and he's seen it go through. And he mentioned the statistic, how 2% of high school football players make it to the next level,
which is crazy.
It's and will probably be even more siphoned off by the in the wake of NIL.
Or now doing 5 years of eligibility.
Yeah, and so he talked a lot about the importance of high school. The importance of high school football, not only on but off the field.
Right.
Take a listen to what he said here about just what makes high school football so special.
Well, in my life, my dad aside, there's been so many coaches, and especially going back to high school, that poured into me and made a difference in my life. And that's what I want to do for the next generation of student athletes is invest in them. 2% of all high school players get to go play the next level. And so that leaves 98% that are going to go be leaders in the community, going to go be great husbands and fathers one day, and hopefully they can look back at their high school experience by, man, Coach Bentley really made a difference in my life, and be able to use football as an avenue to teach them so many different things.
But yeah, other than that, it was really cool to just talk to him. Like I said, he had a big part. He was the quarterback. Perry Orth was the Gamecocks quarterback the first year of my collegiate career.
Right.
Jake Bentley was there throughout the end of it until he got injured there at the end. I always thought he got a bad rap as a quarterback.
I agree.
With the way that the games that he was put through, the defense should have been a lot better off. Debo Samuels was never healthy, but
I thought it was interesting too, though, how he did talk about coming in as a freshman.
Yeah,
and
he knows exactly what it's like.
Jumping into a huddle.
Yeah.
With the likes of Debo.
Yeah.
Or some other people, and him telling these juniors and seniors,
yeah,
here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And I think the other interesting part is, his energy and his enthusiasm, is awesome. But what I was going to say was, you mentioned a couple games to him. I'm always amazed at how many players can play 40, 50, 60 games and remember, like every game. Like we brought Texas A&M or something, and he was like, "Oh, this, that, this, and that."
Yeah.
Or you bring up Clemson, it's this, that, this, and that.
Yeah.
It's like that mindset is crazy.
Yeah. So it's a lot to be excited about for Nation Ford.
Yep.
It's a tough area to play in when you have Northwestern and you have Rock Hill, and that's where he was at the year before. He was working as the co-offensive coordinator, and quarterback coach out there at Rock Hill. So he got to, work closely with a couple prospects that are going to be going to South Carolina for college ball.
Right.
And then he saw what the area was like, but you saw, Northwestern, Sal Point, Rock Hill, even like Indian Land, Clover, Catawba Ridge. So he has familiarity and knows what it takes to win in that area.
Talent. Yeah.
It absolutely is. So that'll be interesting to see how that progresses going out throughout his first year.
Yeah.
But now you want to switch back to basketball, right?
Now let's switch. I'm sure we'll still talk football. I mean, we talk it all the time, but I mean, when things happen, you keep rolling. So basketball. Obviously, we're kind of in the point where we're in conference play. Things are starting to kind of heat up a little bit. But I just want to bring up two players real quick on the ladies' side who really are kind of, showing up and showing out. And one is a young lady at Concord, Kaylin Williams, who I had a chance to go talk to the other day. She's played 4 sports during her high school career.
Wild.
She's done tennis, track, flag football, and basketball. So she's currently playing basketball for the Spiders out there. And she was also, back when they had the Nagurski Awards, the Carolina Panthers gave out the flag football female athlete of the year, which she won. A tremendous lady, and I had a chance to sit down and talk with her. And I want you guys to take a look at her story real quick.
Okay, so I play 4 sports, tennis, flag football, basketball, and track. I've been on the varsity tennis, basketball, and track team since my freshman year, and then I played varsity flag football since my junior year, which is the first year that it was a sport at our school.
Talk about a full plate your senior year. Kaylin Williams from Concord High School has made the most of her high school days when it comes to sports. Kaylin says it's a big part of who she is.
Honestly, I'm just really competitive. I love to be busy, for lack of better words. I love to fill my time with meaningful things. So for me, that's competing, and that's building those relationships with my teammates and making those memories through sports.
While keeping her need for competition for sports a big part of high school, she's also done great work in the classroom and says sports and grades go hand in hand when talking about hard work and success.
I pride myself on my schoolwork. It's one of the most important things to me is making sure I'm pushing myself both on the court and on the field, but also in the classroom, because I know that while sports are fun now, they're not forever, and so it's important that I better myself through my education as well, because there's always a lot going on. You're playing on sports teams that might not be winning. You've got a test tomorrow in first period, and you haven't studied. It's 10 o'clock, and you're playing a basketball game. But I think that the really important thing is just to stop and count your blessings and just remember how blessed you are.
The cool part about her too, Jack, is not only what she does, and she mentioned it, how important academics are, but to play 4 sports, I mean, that's pretty much you're in something all year long.
Yeah.
And to be kind of near the top of your class, kudos to her, because that's not easy to do. But of course, another young lady balling out is a young lady from Bessemer City.
Yeah, Tiana Pettis. She has been going on a tear throughout the season. It's really just a remarkable year for women's high school basketball in the area. You've got really high, prolific shooters. I know there's a girl at Porter Ridge. She's in the top 5 for scoring in the area. That's Ashanti Taylor. Even Queens Grant Charter and Zamaya Bynum. She is in the top 5 as well for scoring in the area. And we knew that coming forward. Last year we saw Charlotte Catholic, Lake Norman, a bunch of different schools that were really, at West Rowan that were continuing their successful seasons. But Tiana Pettis out of Bessemer City, she is if the numbers are correct for Max Preps, is currently the number 1 scorer in the nation.
Wow.
Averaging 45 points a game. She put up 65 points in a game in November against North Gaston, and that tied the record for the most points scored in a single game.
Would she have beat North Gaston by herself?
I don't know. I wonder. We have to check the final score on that one.
If you're averaging 40-something, you might be beating some teams
by
yourself.
And she's 5'10".
Really?
Not incredibly tall,
Wow.
Not as far as I mean, for girls basketball in high school is concerned, that's fairly, that's a good size to be at. But really, really just a dominant player. And so she's just continuing to go back and forth and developing throughout the year. So that's been a really big pull for that area and for that squad to just show how much that she's going forward. It's been really impressive to see, some of these performances. So we're going to talk to her, just kind of highlight that season and how, she's been doing out for, the Gaston County area.
We'll have a story on her a little bit later on this week. You can catch that WCCB News at 10.
Yeah.
We'll have that out a little bit later this week.
Mm-hmm. So that's really, really huge. And it back ends to a lot of good basketball games that are coming up, this week.
Right.
Martin Luther King Jr. weekend.
Right.
There's a lot of tournaments
going
on through. We're going to try our best to get to them. But when you look at we'll start with Friday. Lake Norman, top team in the area.
Right.
Lake Norman is the top team in the area, not only for the girls, but also the guys too.
They're both, yeah.
They're both. Lake Norman is on a tear.
Right.
They didn't they didn't miss a beat. They had an early exit in the playoffs last year, earlier than they would have liked to. But when you're taking on North Mech, early. It wasn't early for them, but it was early. It wasn't early for everybody else. It was early for them.
You're talking the guys' side, right?
The guys' side, yeah.
So you have Isaiah, right?
Yeah. So Lake Norman will be taking on South Iredell on Friday night, a big, rivalry matchup. You're going to see a couple other ones. Providence Day taking on Charlotte Christian. Providence Day.
That's always, you throw the records out the window there. And I saw Providence Day play the other night. Mm-hmm. And they were just, what you would expect.
Yeah.
Well-rounded. They play some stifling defense over there. And just, a well-coached team. They just go out and play ball.
A big one coming up that'll be Friday night will be Country Day up against Charlotte Latin. They're neck and neck. 13-6 for Country Day, 12-3 for Charlotte Latin. So that'll be a big matchup for those two teams, especially whenever you go in the conference and the independent school kind of.
And for you high school enthusiasts out there, if you haven't had a chance to get out and see the private schools play, you're missing something.
Yeah, the private schools. I mean,
I remember going to a game last year at Covenant Day, and I forgot who Covenant Day was playing. But I got there like 15 minutes late, and they had locked the gym.
Yeah.
And there was literally 80 people standing outside.
Yeah.
All I had to do was flash my badge. I got in. But I'm just saying, if you haven't had a chance to see these schools play, and you're a high school basketball, enthusiast, go check them out.
Yeah.
Because they play some ball.
Yeah, and there's some other really good matchups going on around the area as well. That you're seeing just a couple of different ranked matchups. You're getting into conference play, so you'll have Indy Butler. Indy, though, has fallen off from where they were last year. They still have yet to win a game on the girls' side. You're going to see, North Lincoln and West Iredell. North Lincoln's 12-1, have only lost one game so far for the women. North Mech, who is sitting, again, right there with their male counterparts in the top 5. They'll be taking on West Charlotte on Friday night, so that'll be another good game. There's no shortage of good matchups to see when you're looking through for some of these games that you're trying to find. And that even goes all the way into South Carolina too. It's not just the North Carolina area. You're seeing Mallet Creek, number 4 team there. They'll be taking on Chambers, trying to dominate Chambers in that matchup. But you've got a lot of different in independent and in and in South Carolina schools. You have Marvin Ridge, Charlotte Catholic. That'll be a good one. Marvin Ridge, a top 10 team in the area. So then you have South Point in South Carolina has yet to lose a game this season, which is really impressive. They'll be taking on Dreer on Friday night.
So what's the record?
They're 15-0 right now.
Wow.
They're number 2 in the area for what they are able to do. So really impressive. Palisades Audrey Kell's another middle of the pack game that should be really, really good.
There's AK out there, Coach Kraft. Always brings a tough team out on the floor. I had a chance to kind of talk with him this summer when he had his kids camp. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he runs his team like he does his kids camp, but it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
But he told me, he was like, you can never start too early, instilling in these kids, fundamentals. And as you watch AK play, it's what he preaches the entire time. All about fundamentals. You can never, you can't practice enough when it comes to something like that. And that's always kind of been his mantra. So that's why AK seems to always kind of walk out there and have some strength.
Yeah, and then there's a big, rivalry matchup, a big area rivalry, Lincolnton and Maiden. Those two teams know each other all too well.
Right.
So that's going to be a really good one when you took a look at what Maiden's been able to do this year and what Lincolnton's been able to do. I mean, Lincolnton's not far behind at 8-5, but Maiden is going on a tear, only losing 2 games. They're 11-2, so a lot to look forward to on Friday night, and that's just the women's side.
Right.
You take a look at the men's games. Again, Lake Norman, South Iredell, they're all the same matchups, but Lake Norman, number 1, I mean, they're just dominating basketball or across the area, throughout the board, but they'll be taking on South Iredell. Now you have Gaston Christian, number 7, up against number 2, Concord Academy.
Right.
Concord Academy had been going on a tear, but I'll tell you what, I watched them play Carmel Christian. That's coached by Tamar Slay, the former Charlotte Bobcat.
Oh, really? Okay.
And his son's on the team, committed to Marshall, which was Bryce's alma mater.
Okay.
Which is Tamar's alma mater. So, and they just ran over Concord.
Right.
And Concord was the one of the top.
They were top. Yeah.
If not the number 1, I think they were the number 2 in the area for private schools.
Right.
And Carmel Christian, they came into Carmel Christian and just dominated them. It was Concord Academy couldn't get a shot off.
Sure.
So that was really impressive to see. So they're going to try. They're definitely going to want to bounce back, as they go forward throughout the week. Concord's only lost 3 games, one of them being to Carmel Christian, Gaston County has also been going. Gaston Christian has been going on a tear as well. Then you have Weddington up against Sun Valley.
Wow.
That'll be a big matchup for that area again. And with the boys matchup that Friday night. Lincolnton 10-3, Maiden 10-2. They're not really ranked in the areas, but that's a huge game. Neither of them want to lose that one. That's a big one for them. You keep going down the line. You see some other games that could be really, really good and good matchups for the night. South Point and Crest 9-5 and 9-1. You got Chambers and Mallet Creek. They're neck and neck,
right.
8-6 and 8-7. So both of them, neither one wants to lose that game. North Meck, like we said, they're both number 5 for both women and men. They'll be taking on West Charlotte as well. In the women, we talked about the women's for AK and Palisades, and for the men's side, AK is 12-1, Palisades 9-8. So that'll be a really good game, kind of a trap game for AK in that one to not kind of fall asleep in that game. You keep going down the line to see some other ones. Indy Butler, again, that'll be another good one. This time, the Butler, while the Butler women are going off, the Butler men have kind of had some really tough games.
Yes, I gotta say, they've been up and down.
They've been really close matchups all year long. But the Independence men have been going on a tear. They almost lost to Hickory Ridge early in the year. Ended up just barely getting into that one.
Little wake-up call?
They've only lost 2 games all season.
Wow.
Then you look at Myers Park and just what is continuing to kind of have happened to them. 7-9 as a school. They'll be taking on South Meck. Hopewell will be up against Huff. That'll be a really good one. So there's a lot of good matchups on Friday night to look forward to. And then in South County, you got Indian Land and Fort Mill as well. So that'll be a good one.
And if you are looking you can't get to, but you want to watch, our Bayhackle Sports game of the week for basketball is Palisades and AK.
And like we said, that'll be a good one.
So we'll show the guys and the girls. I think the girls will probably start around 6.
Yep.
Guys will play right after them. So Palisades and AK, BayhackleSports.com. That is our game of the week. Make sure you head on over to BayhackleSports.com and you can check that out. So what I want to make sure everybody knows, too, that's listening and watching out there is, we do the Blitz every Friday night when it's football season, and we go out there and cover what we can on Friday nights. But I hope you guys are watching WCCB at 10. Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah.
That's normally
those
when
are
we're out there.
Our big nights.
So those are the big nights where we go out and we try to hit basketball, and we try to get both the girls and the guys and make sure we get them covered, which is sometimes easier to do because the girls play and then we stay for the guys. But make sure, that you watch on Tuesday and Friday nights We normally have a couple games that we go out and cover. And maybe down the road we'll try to bring in some scoreboards or something like that. But we're kind of still messing with our basketball coverage in terms of that. So make sure you check it out.
I mean, it's a lot more spread out than football.
Right,
football
exactly.
Is, for the most part, just one night a week, except for some, odd weeks.
Odd
but,
weeks.
Basketball outside of the, sometimes they have the tournaments which help out.
On Saturdays.
You can get to a couple more than nights. So, yeah, like this Saturday, huge tournament for MLK weekend. You're going to have the 6th Annual Carmel Christian Showcase for MLK weekend. It's going to be a huge day out at Carmel Christian. It starts off at noon with Hickory up against Forsyth Country Day. It's the Hickory Red Tornadoes up against Forsyth Country Day. Then you have Butler versus Corvian at 1:30.
Wow.
That'd be right after them. Then Burlington High School up against Wesleyan Christian, so bringing two out-of-area teams into the area. East Meck going up against Cox Mill right after that one.
Wow.
Then you have Hickory Ridge up against Concord Academy. That'll be a huge game right after that to see if Hickory Ridge can pull off a little bit of an upset, and especially since Concord Academy might not be too happy going back to play at Carmel Christian. And then, of course, the very last game of the night, Carmel Christian hosting Weddington. So, a huge slew of matchups. That's from noon to 7:30.
Buy some popcorn.
Yeah, you don't got to go anywhere. You don't got to go anywhere. So I'll be holed up there on Saturday, but in between for pretty much all of those games because. I mean, that's just your whole Saturday right there with the, Panthers done. Right. With the Hornets, they'll play on MLK Day.
Still got a couple weeks till NASCAR.
Still a couple weeks till NASCAR. You have college football playoffs won't be till that Monday.
Right, yeah.
So, that's where I'll be on Saturday from pretty much the entirety of Saturday. The Checkers are in town, so I'll go to maybe a game as well for that. But
I'll let you handle that.
This is going to be really, really awesome showcase. It's, like I said, 6-year. Phenom Hoops, of course, puts it on. They do a great job with all their tournaments. And I know there's even a couple more in the area that we would try to get to, and maybe we could. But that's, it's about as easy as it's going to get for me to ever get a high school basketball game.
Yeah, exactly. To go that route.
So that'll be on Saturday. Those are going to be a really good. That's 6 really big matchups. Awesome. Private school versus charter school. Public school versus charter school. Public versus private. A lot to look forward to on this weekend.
So make sure that if you don't follow Jack or myself, we're on all the social media outlets. We try to keep up. Like tonight when we go out to our games, we'll send you some updates, tell you where we're at and what we're doing. Always come up, say hi. But Tuesday, Friday nights, where you'll get your basketball highlights. And, of course, just stay with BayHackleSports.com. We do our best to try to get out all the high school stuff that's going on. Wish we could get to more, but we will as time progresses. But I think that's it. We're going to take a deep breath, get ready for this weekend, and we will see you guys next week. Make sure that wherever you check out the podcast that you like, subscribe, comment. We'd love to hear from you. But, yeah, check us out wherever you watch or listen to your podcast. Until next week, good job. We will see you next week.